All right, welcome back to the PSA Sunday Sit-Down. Got a great guest today, Ryan Hanley. Ryan, thank you for joining me. So excited to have you on. Last time we were hanging out, we were playing some golf. That video still has yet to come out. But yeah, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to dive into this one.
Yeah, that video can wait. I mean,
Cool.
I don't think anybody really needs to see me play, so,
Yeah, it's funny. I can't remember if I was telling you this or maybe Mike or somebody, but like, I had no idea how brutal it would be to edit a video like that.
Imagine.
And not just your golf swing,
No, you got multiple cameras.
We had the, kind of I would call it the mobile version of it, right? Where we were walking around with the stabilizer. We had the GoPro on the front of the card. I had a new appreciation for like the Bob Does Sports guys and what they do.
Production value
it seemed like, yeah. And for us, it was like, okay, don't hit yet. We got to set the camera up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was still fun to get out there and hit the ball around. I mean, James really carried us there in the beginning, as everyone will see in the video. But great course out there, Blue Ridge Trail, for all you Pennsylvania people watching here. That's right off 81, kind of.
Can't beat the price.
Cool course, but no, yeah. I mean, that's, I think everybody knows I live here in like the Charlotte area, just over the border in South Carolina. And a course of that quality here on a weekday would cost at least $80. On weekends, probably pushing $150.
Yeah, I'm in the
Reading
Reading area.
Like $30 a guy.
Yeah, in the Reading area, we get some of the Philly pricing. So yeah, 80, something like that.
Yeah, and you're used to playing like Marion and Aronimink, right? That's where
right.
you're used to playing.
Yeah, I play there all the time, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was funny, we're all out there and we're thinking, okay, cool, this will be fun. When I had sort of the idea for breaking par, I'm like, yeah, it'll be good to get out and play some golf and hang out with people you work with or, see all the time. But then when you get back, you're like, okay, now I got to edit this. And all of a sudden I've got like, I don't know, probably 80 video files that I've got to try to put together. And of course, you take a couple of shots off. You're like, oh, we don't need to film every shot. And those are always the good ones. On the first episode, it happened to a guy, Eric Matheson, who was on the first one from Banner Engineering. He hit like a 260-yard 5-wood to like 5 feet. And the camera was, charging in the cart. But it's been fun so far. I'm certainly learning a lot here on all this content, on the content journey, so to speak. And you've been a great help in all of it.
I think around the golf, though, I mean, you're gonna, it's 4 hours, give or take. And I didn't know Frank when we started that round. We didn't get a ton of time one-on-one, but you spend 4 hours with somebody where they're gonna struggle a little bit. With their own game, and you kind of see how they react there. You get to know someone a little bit more in that game of golf because you see all the emotions typically. You see happiness, rage. So it is a great way to talk to people that you might not know a little bit, but by the end of it, you've got a pretty good understanding of who they are as a person.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking of Frank, that's good you bring him up. I mean, we just launched our new website today. So by the time this comes out on Sunday, I'm confident I'll have all the bugs worked out. But it's been a fun day of like, oh, that link's broken or this link is broken. But yeah, I mean, Frank's team did an awesome job on the website.
Yeah, it was great.
Really, really great editing platform. I mean, talk about a company that leverages AI. I could go in there and say, hey, make me a page all about Ryan Hanley and his great golf swing and welding capabilities, and it would do it in like 30 seconds.
And
so
that would be
really
referred
cool
to
to
as
see what his company's done. Yeah, AI slop, right? Yeah, you could put whatever you want in there. I mean, things that used to take forever, now you could do in, 25, 30 minutes, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, the golf was good. I've been at PSA now. I think I'm coming up here on 7 months. We've gotten to know each other a little bit. Saw each other down in Philly for PAC Expo, spent some time playing golf. So yeah, I thought it would be great to kind of jump on here. And the one thing that I love about these is it gives me an opportunity to connect with either coworkers or, partners, vendors that we're working with. I mean, for us here, I know you from PSA, right? I don't know, we were joking when we jumped on the podcast here. It said, hey, what were you doing like 20 years ago? And I think you said you were a, union
sheet
Union
metal
worker, right? I would have no idea. You're playing, playing all sorts of sports. You're about to get married. You're coaching, like all these things that would never come up in regular conversation. So, we'll love to dive into that. Like, take me to your journey. I mean, gosh, you can go back to Little League if you want, and then to how you got to kind of PSA in welding in general.
We can go to high school, and the reason I start there is because it's something that it happened to me, and I know that it still happens to kids, and we're trying to change this. But I took the ASVAB test, which was the military, basically like a placement test to see what you'd be good at. And it came back, mechanical trades, something along those lines. And at that point in time, I was in all the gifted programs. I was, the smart kid. So my guidance counselors, my parents, pretty much anybody in my life at that point who would steer me in a direction basically said, no, 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 no. You're going to college. You're not going to Votech. That's for, those kids, blah, blah. And that's what happened. I listened to them. I went to college, and I left after 3 years because I didn't want to be there to begin with. I got into an apprenticeship, and I ended up doing what the military said I would be doing anyway. And that little hiccup, not a hiccup, but that little sojourn to college, while it was useful to me, I still look back at that like that's 3 years I lost. Because I took the advice of people who fell victim to that stigma of, college is where you need to go to succeed. And you will not succeed if you don't. And I think we found, obviously, the tide is turning a little bit. We're realizing that skilled trades are not, they're necessary, but they're a great way to make a living for a lot of people. As that's kind of,
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to start there, because for me, that's a real important part of my story, I feel like. So then, I was a union sheet metal worker for about 20 years, got out of that, and I took a job as a project manager for an industrial mechanical contractor. And one of my projects was for a company called PSA out of Aston, PA. And basically, we had to help install their system at Wawa's bottling plant in Pennsylvania. Got to know the owner of PSA a little bit, Mike McHale. I hated where I was working, hated what I was doing. And when I left there, I gave Mike a call, and he said, come in, let's talk. And next thing you know, it's 8 years later, and I started as kind of, I don't think there really was a spot for me. I think Mike kind of found a spot for me. And I was doing service, installation, I was doing welding, pretty much anywhere there was a need, I kind of slipped in. And fortunately enough, this is the kind of organization where that's rewarded. And I've kind of elevated through that process of just, if there's a spot that needs work, I'll jump in there and do that. Even if I'm not the best at it, and we all do that here. People, that's one thing I like the most about this company is the freedom to grow.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And I love how you mentioned, kind of the trades and being pressured, to go to college, not go to Votech, things like that. Like, I specifically remember, I went to Pitt Centenary High School right by our Duryea location, and I remember going, I think it was like in 8th grade, everybody went to tour Votech. And we went there, and I was not, and still am not, a very handy person. But I can certainly appreciate, people who are in trades and things like that. But the one thing that kind of caught my eye at Votech were the cooking courses. It was kind of funny, like, it was a guy I played baseball with, his uncle, like, ran the cooking program at Votech. Now, I mean, this was probably 2004, 2005, maybe, somewhere around there. So imagine at that point, like, going home and telling your mom, like, hey, I want to go to Votech. When, I don't know if stigma is the right word, or
no,
everybody's kind of expected, like, hey, go to college, right? You're going to a 4-year university. Where we're from, it was, hey, grow up, graduate high school, go to Penn State, work a 9 to 5 at the same company for 40 years and retire, and now it's totally different. And that's one thing I've noticed in this industry, even coming off of Automate here when I was out in Chicago, is there are a lot of people now pushing the trades, which is great, because I think our generation probably didn't even consider that as an option, as maybe a first choice, right?
No, and the bottom line is, I ended up leaving the union, and I was a sheet metal worker for like I said, for 20 years. I ended up leaving, but the bottom line is that trade and that career afforded me a very comfortable lifestyle. I was able to purchase a home before all my friends. Uh, you know, we had newer cars and I had great health insurance. What more can you ask for at this day and age? So, I definitely going the route of the skilled trade changed my life. It definitely did, in the best way.
Yeah. And what did you go to college for?
Marketing.
So that's funny. Ironically enough, yeah. Obviously, we all know I was a communications grad. I usually start all my conversations with, I'm not an engineer. I don't pretend I'm an engineer, but, I can try to get the right people in the room. But yeah, marketing it's funny, you go, and I could see you, succeeding in marketing as well, right? You've got a great personality, you've got, all these ideas, all these things like that. So I could see why you would get pushed in that direction in college. But yeah, there's also that, I'm sure maybe this is how you felt, was you just wanted to do something different. And maybe what is it about the, kind of the trades, or once you got into, the sheet metal work, or even what you do here at PSA, is it the impact that you have on, say, an end user? Is it getting to work with getting to work with your hands and fix something, or put something together, or see something come from a drawing on a sheet of paper to whether it's a machine that works or a system that works? What is it about what you're doing today?
It's all of those things,
really
but for me originally, as a kid, I didn't work with tools much. Like, my dad wasn't a handy guy. Like, we didn't do home projects. And I always thought that looked cool. Like, guys using saws and stuff like that was manly and cool to me, but I never got to do it. So then realistically, my first experience with using my hands and working with tools was as an apprentice. And I loved it. And I love seeing something created. I love fixing problems. So yeah, it's kind of all those things.
Awesome. Yeah. And then what led you from kind of, say, out of the union into, the journey that you took to get to PSA? What
I was kind of at a point,
I guess caused you to leave that union job?
Yeah, I was kind of at a point in my development there. I was a shop foreman. And at that point, there aren't many higher places to go. I was kind of maxed out. And it kind of got stale. I was frustrated a lot with the position I was in, the work itself, and it just wasn't great for my mental health, basically. And it was time to try something new. And coincidentally, a childhood friend who I hadn't seen in 20-some years owned a mechanical contractor, and I saw he was looking for help. So I put in a basic application, just I'll come do whatever. And I specifically said, I don't want any favors, but he decided that no, I wasn't going to be a welder or fabricator. I was going to be project manager for him, and that's how that started. So
yeah, and then similar experience there towards the end of that. You're like, this project management stuff, I want to get back into the field and start doing stuff again. Or what was it like for you there?
The way the company I worked for was structured was volume work. They took any job, any day of the week. So there were weeks I would work 80, 90 hours. And that's just, at the time I had a 1-year-old, and there was like a stretch, even though I was home every night, I hadn't seen her awake for like 8 days. And I felt like this isn't working, and that's kind of what did that. It was just a different type of company. They were, basically, like my employees there, they were on the schedule unless they specifically requested off. Like, you didn't have weekends, if you wanted off, you had to put it in. That's kind of how it worked. So just not really a long-term solution.
No, yeah. And I think, that brings up a great point. Obviously having kids will really change you. For me, I remember my first son was born, he's almost 5 now. I was traveling a lot, and I still travel a decent bit, and I like that aspect of the job. But there was a time, probably about a year and a half ago, where every week I was on the road. And to be honest with you, I didn't even really know what I was on the road for, right? It was I was working at a startup where it was early stage, and we were trying to, get the ball rolling, get things off the ground. I mean, that's how I met Mike, right? That's how I even knew who PSA was. It was, we were trying to sell an AI powered software to systems integrators. So I was, kind of going all over the country, and at one point, like, the older your kids get, and I'm sure you know this, you've got older kids, they realize you're gone more, and that for me has gotten harder, for sure. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, I like to travel, but then obviously once you have kids, you're like, oh, you know what? How do I get down and back to Denver, Colorado on the same day, right? When before kids, it was like, oh, maybe I'll fly in the night before and I'll catch a Rockies game, and then I'll, take the late flight back and I'll go, I don't know, see who's playing at Red Rocks, like stuff like that. Now it's like, okay, how do I land at 11, go to my meeting at 12, and be home by 5?
Exactly.
Stuff like that. So, and you, I guess, talk a little bit about how, that brought you to PSA, and now, like, even being able to do things like coach your kids. Like, you wouldn't have been able to do that in
Absolutely not. No.
Your 80 to 90 hour weeks, right?
No.
I guess, yeah.
No, in all seriousness, I don't know that I'd still be married, to be perfectly honest. I mean, I had a 1-year-old at home. My wife worked and was shouldering all of the child rearing duties because I wasn't there. And obviously that's going to lead to friction, So, like I said, not sustainable for me. I think there's some guys that like that kind of lifestyle, but this wasn't right for me.
So you're familiar with the statement that I was getting a lot from my wife, I have a job too, right? Those kinds of things that... I think that's,
Yeah, like your job, always feels harder than anybody else's. Like, I do for work, so I don't care about what you do. But the bottom line is, she's working just as hard.
Yep. No, and it's funny. Like, the thing for me that gets me on some of the when travel gets heavy, and luckily, for me here, it's not, right. I'm not on the road every single day like I used to, or even every week. Maybe it's once or twice a month. But the thing that used to get me is I would be on a plane, and Apple does those featured photos now on your phone. And it'd be like a picture of your kid as a baby. And of course, it's like the 5 minutes or 15, whatever it is, from when you push back to the gate to when you can get on the Wi-Fi up in the air. You're like, oh gosh, you see all these pictures, and it's something about flying. I don't know if you feel this way too, but like whenever I fly, I feel like I'm just more emotional in general. Whether it's you're watching a movie, like, gosh, I could be watching Remember the Titans, a movie I've seen 100 times, and I'm like, oh man, am I really about to start crying on this airplane? But yeah, I think that's, I don't know if you feel the same way, but yeah, certainly having kids is like the best thing in the world. And what I love about PSA is we have enough flexibility, work-life balance where we can be, active parts of our, kids' lives, and still do really great work and have a great impact on
like I was telling you before, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to coach my daughter's teams for 4 seasons of softball and 2 seasons of basketball, and it's a lot of time, but am I going to say it's easy? No. I mean, obviously, it's hard, but I've afforded the ability. As long as I can make it happen, it can happen.
Yeah, let's get into the coaching. What's the coaching philosophy like? You got a Bobby Knight philosophy, or are you more of a I don't know, Greg Popovich? Like,
no,
what's the?
I'm the vibes coach. Basically, when I started, my daughter was 7, and I told the parents that first night, look, if your daughter learns softball from me, awesome. If she doesn't, who cares? The bottom line is she's 7, so if she doesn't like me or what we're doing here, she will probably not play softball ever again. And I don't want to be responsible for that, because I had shitty coaches when I was a kid that turned me off from certain sports. I don't want to be that guy, so I started out with, not necessarily like rah rah, we're all going to have fun all the time, but I focused on the girls enjoying their time there. And They were receptive to it. The parents were receptive to it. Now they've got a little older, and now they need to start playing because it's more competitive. The other girls are better. The parents expect a little more. So trying to find a fine line. And what I was able to do this year is find assistant coaches who were really good at the X's and O's stuff, really good at not so much the discipline, but keeping the girls in line. And I could still be the fun guy for the most part, and it's a good mix.
Yeah. I like that. I like that philosophy. You get some assistant coaches to do the dirty work for you. Somebody doesn't run out a ground ball to third base, and you let the assistant coach handle it, and then you can just be the fun guy, right?
Coach Ryan. That. Everybody likes Coach Ryan,
What's yeah? What's your favorite memory from coaching? I mean, I haven't really gotten into that yet. I did coach, so I think I was telling you, my oldest is 4.5, and they have soccer, at as little as 2 here. And I remember we signed him up for, it was called Soccer Tots. And of course I'm like, yeah, I'll coach, I'll volunteer to coach. And we get there and somebody hands me a practice plan with a bunch of toddlers. I'm like, practice plan? Like,
yeah.
It ended up just being, they have that, what do they call that? Like the parachute. Everybody wears a parachute like we used to play in gym class. It's similar to that. And that was their favorite part, that and red light, green light. Like we didn't get into any dribbling or shooting or anything else they had on this practice plan. Now he's a little bit older, and they start to do a little bit more on the soccer front. And he did a season of baseball where there wasn't much baseball played. But what do I have to look forward to as my 2 boys get older here and start getting into more sports? Yeah, and then I'm sure what happens, right, is as you realize, like at least I've seen this with my son in the backyard with a golf club, is he expects to hit that ball over the fence. Like we have a little fence here, and it goes into the road, and he hits it. And the first time he did it, he was shocked, right? And now he gets upset if he doesn't do it. So it's got to be cool for you to see sort of the progression. And the one thing that I'm starting to realize is it goes fast, right? It's at one point you're like trying to teach him how to swing a club, and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, you're going over the top a little bit, right? Something like that. Yeah. 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 So, do you have any advice then? I guess this is turning into a dad podcast, but do you have any advice to sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say freeze time, but like what do you do to make sure you really start to appreciate those moments? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's a lot of fun, and I try to catch myself in those moments too. And like when you're out just hanging out in the backyard, like you know, now I've got the younger one is also starting to swing a golf club. So I'm like, what's funny is my older one is he throws righty and he bats lefty, or does everything that he would swing lefty. That's how I am. My younger one is the opposite. He throws lefty, but he'll swing right-handed. And you like hardly ever see that, I feel like. But then I always have to remind myself, like, hey, he's two. Maybe he's not going to do that in 3 months or whatever. But yeah, but then I'm like, okay, he's left-handed. All right, we've got a little bit of advantage. If he just throws hard, he's got some run on his fastball, like he's got a chance. uh, but it cracks me up. So all right, well, I think we, to switch gears a little bit from parenting and coaching, talk a little bit about what you're excited about here at PSA. And I know we've talked a lot about welding, and we'll continue to talk about welding. But what's you're sort of heading up that program, that initiative. What's exciting for you? What are you looking forward to in the next 6 months here? 6 months, a year, however long out you want to go. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome, and we talked about this on a few different Sunday sit downs, so to speak. But it's just the one thing that always sort of surprises me, or I shouldn't say it surprises me anymore, but it's just the range of our capabilities, right? I just got the hero video back for our new website, and it's 40 seconds long, and you see 50 different things. You see a drone flying, you see drones on the table, you see automation systems. You see, machines running parts. Jeff's got exciting stuff going on in the machine shop, and that was the one thing that I want to make sure that we kind of leverage, or not leverage, but let the world know, but like let people know, like, hey, we are not just a drone shop. We're not just a machine shop. We're not just an automation systems integrator. We can do all of those things, and they're all related. And a lot of people in our company sort of touch different parts of the business. I think that's so cool versus just being one, just machine shop. Yeah, and how many times have you been able to leverage that when you're on site, right? You're talking to a plant manager or somebody there, and you're working on one thing, and you see something else out of the corner of your eye, and you're like, hey, we can do this, or we've done this for a company down the street, like stuff like that. Has that been cool for you too? Well, as we get towards the end here, I think we can, the one thing I always like to ask is, what's something that people don't know about you or would be surprised to learn about you? Like Marty Wolf, is a big WNBA fan, and I would have never guessed that. Danny is a bit of a wild card. He does a million different things, right? So what's something that people wouldn't expect, that you've done or that you like to do? Not to put you on the spot or anything. Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% all the time, right? Yeah. I like it. No, that's good. I mean, speaking of being a sap with dogs, like that always reminds me of Airbud. You know, speaking of movies, you're crying. I mean, Airbud when the kid said he didn't want Buddy anymore, and he throws that snack pack. I remember I was like a kid and just sobbing. My parents ran in and they were like all nervous. They're like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" It's funny to think back, but yeah, I mean, like now gosh, I don't know, I'll be 35 years old, and if I watched Marley and Me or something like that, yeah, I'm still gonna tear up. The dogs would get you. Oh, yeah, it makes you want to call your dad and go play catch, right? Something like that. So, it's like, oh, where's my glove? I got to get outside and play catch with my dad. But, oh no, that's funny. Awesome. Well, it's been really fun to chat here. I guess I'll leave you with one thing: is we're in the middle of July. What are you thinking for the Eagles this year as we head into training camp? Well, there you go. I mean, in most cities, you'll take that. Yeah. Yeah, in most cities, you take that, just not Philadelphia, right? They'll be calling for Sirianni's head. Yeah. Yeah, they don't remember the TO years where it's like maybe this will be the year where they finally get a Super Bowl, right? Where you get all excited, or not to bring up bad memories about McNabb and TO and underperforming, but you guys are doing all right here in the last few years. Oh my, were you at the Super Bowl or were you just in Jacksonville? That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, bummer. Well, cool. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. We'll have you on again here soon, and yeah, we got to watch out for the golf video. It's gonna come out here in the next couple of weeks. But awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, everyone. Yep, we'll talk to you next time here on the Sunday Sit Down.